Top of the morning, afternoon, and the evening. It's the Wayne World Podcast. You know what it is. We gonna get that raw. We gonna get that even that uncut. For so. You know it's your boy AntMoe. For so. You know it's your boy AntMoe. Well, don't act like you don't know we love God. For so. Alright, man, let's get into it.
Top of the morning, the afternoon, and the evening to you. Whomever you may be, wherever you may be watching, looking, and listening. It's your boy AntMoe, trapping out of Bendo. Whoa, let me with your big baby. And welcome to Wayne's Words, my middle name, tonight. Hey, folks, yo, we gotta be lit with that one, folks. That's why I was start detail. You know what I'm saying? Hey, and that little flow I was on, that was the old Young Nation.
Yeah.
But welcome to another episode of the Wayne's World Podcast, coming live and direct from the couch.
Yeah.
I'm your host with the mostest, AntMoe. You know what I'm talking about? Old Wayne's World himself.
Yeah.
And
wait a minute.
that boy done with Hollywood. We got Randy C Mays in the building, everybody.
Hey, Randy C Mays, man, that's my whole name. Hey, hold on before you start.
I was trying to see if I had a little clap or something for you, folks.
Hold on before you start. Hold on, you ain't preload it.
It wasn't in my decalogue.
Yeah, you gotta upload it. Yeah, connect to the computer.
Yeah, Sersky.
Hey, real quick though, man, a question from the people, man. You know, I always take a question from the people every week.
Oh, you take questions from the people every week?
Yeah.
Now, some of them questions he can't share.
I will.
And Will, what you got for me, Dak?
Hey, can we cuss on here?
Hey, folks, I got a question for you then. If you can answer this question,
and go.
How much truck of the woodchuck cut your wood, folks?
I guess we can't cuss.
Yeah, that's how we gonna get to it, Doc. You know what I'm saying? So listen, man. Like I said, man, it's your boy Ant. Look, I can't even get down there, fuck. I'm tripping on stuff. It's your boy AntMoe. It's your boy Randy C Mays. You know what I'm talking about? Wayne's World Podcast coming back for another week, and we want to welcome everybody, all the first time listeners. And that's what we do, man. We cap, we have a good time, but then we bring you on home. You know what I'm talking about? And so for all the first time and casual listeners, you come on back around now. You hear? You show them boys like up in Harlem, there, boy. And for all of you Wayniacs, y'all know what that is now. That's hearts. You know what I'm talking about? I love you from the bottom of it. Corazon. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
What's up to my Espanol folks? You know what I'm talking about? And so for you first time and casual listeners, you may be wondering, what is the Wayne's World Podcast about? And I'm glad you asked. Listen, simply put, it's a safe haven for the believer. You know what I'm talking about? And so what we desire to do is create an environment where we can talk about life. We can talk about faith. We can talk about manhood. We talk about fatherhood in a safe environment. And so, man, we want to let the rivers flow. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Hey, folk, it was an old song. It was an old song from old Marvin Sapp, folk.
Hey, go.
I got a river flowing inside of me.
I was finna start praise dance.
You know what I'm talking about? Hey, folk, and I ain't gonna hold you, folk. I lost my place, but I'm gonna find it. You know what I'm saying? To God be the glory.
Take your time, baby. Take your time. Let him use you.
Hey, I literally lost it. But anyway,
let him use you.
Oh, my fault, folks. That's because it was on the ground. You know what I'm talking about? So listen, the mission of this podcast is to water the world with grace. Simply put, man, we want to create a place where we can respectfully get each other together. You know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
And so, like I said, we talk faith, fatherhood, manhood, and all those things in between. And so, with that being said, what we getting into next, dog?
Let go.
What's good for the goose is good for the gander. So, essentially, we talking about double standards, folks.
Got plenty.
And so, what I've come to realize is that, you know, when it's somebody you don't like, when it's somebody that's known around the block, folk, oh, they messy. Oh, they ain't no good. You know what I'm saying? They some more low down dirty scoundrels. But when it's you and your partner, oh, y'all messy too. Yeah. Y'all messy too. And so I just want to get into some of those misconceptions, you know what I'm talking about? Some of those dialogues that aren't healthy that we have to really call ourselves out and hold ourselves accountable.
Absolutely.
So my question is, you ain't do it too?
And did.
You did. Yeah, you did. And so, listen, man, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And what, essentially what I mean is that we have to do a better job of, we talk about it a lot, presenting what we really are, who we really are, but not allowing ourselves room to do other things that don't look like Christ or that aren't healthy for the body or for other people based off of who we're attached to.
There you go.
And so, man, I think about it, and I'll honestly start with myself and say I am guilty of that.
Yeah.
It doesn't even necessarily always have to be a conversation with a believer. It could be with somebody, and mind you, I just don't know if they're a believer, but they're a friend of mine. Gotcha. Or they're cool, or we share similar interests, and you get in these arenas where there may be my job, for example. There's people who sit around and talk about other people. That's all they do. They're the older crowd. They, you know what I'm saying? They negative Nancy's. They're all of these things. But my question to myself in a quiet time was, yeah, but do you do that with your friends?
Right.
Aren't you the same cat that complained about the same stuff you do? The word says that a man who is double-minded is unstable in all his ways.
Yeah.
And we may not look at that as being double-minded, but when you go say something and then turn around and do the exact same thing, what do you call that?
Right.
And so, I don't want us to sit on here and be like, yeah, I remember 2 weeks ago when I was, it doesn't necessarily have to be that, but I do want to, because typically what happens is when people get a platform, they don't use it to show how we're actually more alike than we are different.
Right.
And so for me, man, I want to bridge those gaps for believers and non-believers alike. Once again, we're trying to water people with grace. We want it to be a safe haven where we can come here, we can lay ourselves bare and know that it's not going to be something where people are using this as fuel and ammunition to destroy or tear down. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's something that we can be guilty of. We could see somebody post something on social media, for example, and they could be, I don't know, crying on a video about something. Hell awaits. But they could be on a video crying about something, and it could be a serious moment for them. But Randy, for example, could take the video and he can send it to me. You know what I'm saying? And then what I do, folks, I jump right in. I start roasting the person. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm joking, but it's a serious thing, though, because you have to be careful what you put on your social media. You have to be careful who you share information with on a regular basis, because a lot of people will take the things that are used to heal, because the Bible also says you confess your sins one another that you may be healed. Mm-hmm. Right? Jesus forgives me, but I confess my sins to one another to be healed. And so you have to you do have to be careful with a lot of those situations that you put yourself in. That's still very funny to me. But what are some ways though? And a lot of the time, like, I feel like Randy be on his toes when he don't know what's going on. So some of the stuff you might have to think about it a little bit. Mm-hmm. But what are some things that we could use to identify us being essentially the things or the type of people that we say we aren't? Because sometimes it could be a low lying type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Where we could be, because the direct intersection that we can run into is we present ourselves one way, but we're doing things another. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Absolutely. I think that honestly, man. So let's go back to let's identify some stuff first, though. Mm-hmm. So when I cap with people about people or whatever, mean no harm. My heart, there's no, you know what I mean? There's a difference in, I ain't hating on that person or what. Anthony put on his suit for his birthday. Clean suit was clean. I'm roasting him though. Yeah. Like, I ain't hating on Ant for his suit. I'm roasting him about his suit and called him my son. Hey son,
He said, no, I'm gonna tell you what he did. So we all was supposed to go. Me and the fellas, me, him, and Q was supposed to go to Ocean Prime. And so I forgot what I posted. It could have just been a regular video or something, whatever. It was just a picture. And so he go inbox me and say, "You my son."
Him want to eat like him daddy so bad. But my point behind that though is the heart behind that though is not that I'm upset that Anthony put on a suit and I had on a t-shirt that day or whatever. Right. Some people will DM pictures around from each other because it's a level of hate or ill will towards that
Absolutely.
person. When I cap, that's not my intention at all. Right. But as far as recognizing it and identifying those inconsistencies, that's going to solely fall on your circle. They're going to hear you talk the most. They're going to see how you move the most. They're going to hear about what you complain about the most. And when they identify and hear those inconsistencies, it was like, well, how you going to get mad? How you going to get mad because somebody laughed at you in your suit when you was just laughing at Anthony in his suit?
Right.
That's what we got to fall on because sometimes when we may not even catch it.
Right. The one thing I will say real quick, just to interject is, and not to say that we see the church has a problem of being very legalistic, very hyper religious about stuff. Mm-hmm. But I will say a saying that I heard many years ago. This was like, 2012, 13. Mm-hmm. And it always stuck with me. The path to hell is paved with good intentions.
Wow.
And so we have to make sure that when we're doing something, sometimes it could be fun loving, but sometimes it can
absolutely
be the fire that's sparked to burn down a village.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And, that's why your circle, you have to be careful with your circle because something that you may mean, me or Jeff or Toya, somebody may take it a completely different way.
And
prime example, the podcast itself. You know what I'm saying? Remember the conversation that me and you had before I ever talked to Jeff and Toya about the podcast. Mm-hmm. And it was based off of other things, but I was like, man, I don't think such and such. And, we briefly talked about it and we finally got in the room together and we just talked about it and it ended up not being nothing like what I thought. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But that's what happens when we allow things to get into us. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is, where this whole good for the goose, good for the gander thing, if it would have been somebody else, me myself would have told that person that they were being sensitive, that they were being irrational.
Got you.
You see what I'm saying? And so we have to not be those double standards that we complain about and then become.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because it can really destroy stuff. Like if Toya and them weren't mature, they could have took that small piece and took it as, oh, well, he's this and he's that.
Absolutely.
When to be honest, all it really came down to is I value anybody that puts an ear to the podcast. Honestly, may still at that time and even now may be still a little sensitive about it because it's my podcast or our podcast that I feel a way, and I just want people to love what I put out.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And so I can say from my experience as well that I've been linked to people that every day it was something negative though. It really was something negative. And when I said something and when the roles were reversed, it was I was being away. Listen, I will openly say that there was friendships that I was a part of. Number one, that I never thought I would not be a part of based off of my own thoughts and comfortability and safety, whatever you want to call it. You feel safe in certain relationships. But if I was being wise, if I was being spiritually mature enough, I would have saw the season that I was in that relationship for. Mm-hmm. And then number two, I would have realized that there was red flags. There were things that were going on that showed that there was a double-mindedness even within our relationship.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Relationships are always a hot topic thing because we encounter people every single day. And it's funny how the ebbs and flows of life itself can make us look at people a certain way one day and then have a different take based off of circumstance. Right. In reality, if I think about Randy and some of the, I'm not going to say that there's not been that I can remember. I mean, I'm sure there's been tense moments or weird moments, but we didn't live in them.
Right.
Because overall, I didn't allow my immaturity or my feelings or my flesh to make a moment or a situation make me think negatively about a person that has did a lot for me in a season, or that we have this dynamic that is healthy, that is beneficial, that is uplifting, whatever it may be.
Right.
So that's that whole double-minded thing. Once again, it's like, how do you love somebody so much in a relationship, and then on the next end, they the worst person ever?
Right.
Were they just always that same person, and you just didn't choose to accept it,
right,
or look deep enough into it? Because that's typically what I'm picking up, is what's really going on inside of relationships.
Absolutely.
We are not accepting things for what they are. So now, because we ignored the red flags, what they showed us all along, the person that they've always been, we didn't accept. So now it's making us double-minded by nature. So,
yeah, man, count on your community. Don't let the enemy trick you out of a community that you need, because they do call out that type of stuff. Just take it for what it is. If you don't agree with it, you respectfully disagree, and then that's that. But as far as the double-minded piece, don't throw what you can't receive either, though. There's some people that refuse to crack jokes to me anymore, and I don't mean no harm. I do this though. That's why I tell people, like, the heavy set people, dudes under 5'9", you probably don't want to play the dozens with us, because our whole life we had to fight. We had to fight, man. So
let me start rocking, folks.
Yeah, listen, our whole life we had to fight.
Hey, when I was young, I took some big L's, folks.
You know what I'm saying?
I ain't, folks.
But don't go around. So and here's what I also say to the person who does, especially within the church, who always is keeping up the gossip and the mess and has all the business. Here's what I say to you, ma'am and sir: keep living. If you think that it will never happen to you, I pray that it doesn't.
Right. But if it,
keep living.
Yes, sir.
And I'm just curious, what's your experience with all the mess and the talk that you've kept up after all these years? How are you going to feel when you're in the hot seat and you're now the topic of discussion?
Right.
That's a hot seat. It's uncomfortable. You don't know who really, you're going to be confused behind who heard some mess about you and those who God really sent to cover you during that season. Be careful.
Mm-hmm.
Be careful.
It's amazing the hindsight that people can have when they down, but forget when they up. I've literally seen this.
Yeah.
I hope to never experience it personally in myself. I really don't think that money, or believe that money would change who I am or the people that are around me. Yeah. Right? But man, please don't think because you up, you gonna always be up. Because you got a lot of advice that you gonna give when you up that you wouldn't want to hear when you were down.
My God.
It's the duality, man. Don't live in that space. That's the problem. Listen, we're human. So all of us are going to experience that to some degree, period. It's just life. For us to think that we are, even at 34, 31, above that circumstance of life where you could not be in the mood because you ain't, you know what I'm saying? Like a couple things that happen wrong for the day. And we all know a bad day doesn't warrant a bad attitude. Right? That's Joshua principle number 8.
7.
Hey, folks, it's been a while. But that's Joshua principle number 7. But does it mean that you done had a bad attitude after a bad day? You probably have. Let's just keep it a bean.
Right.
But I pray the maturity that happens is, Randy brought it up yesterday or the day before, where, man, you know, I know when Randy off. Let me tell you how he'll suck the life out of a room when he off. Folk, I'm talking about, and it's always when I got my best stuff, folk. I'm talking about, I'm firing them from the hip. Bing, bing, bing. I'm mink, mink, mink. I'm hitting them, right? This him. What? Oh, shit. It's crazy. Boy, go to hell. What are you doing? Don't do that, folk. Just don't answer the phone. Because I'm on. You know what I'm saying? But that's what happens, though. And please get me back on track because I kind of went off when I said that.
We were talking about when you're up and then you're down. That you never experienced it. You can tell when I'm off. Yeah. And so the maturity of it is like he said I did. Is one day he I don't even know if he had hit me up yet. It may have called me, but I texted him. I said, man, listen, I'm off. I'm gonna just keep my bad attitude to myself today. And we didn't talk that much at all. Like we might have texted or whatever, but that was it. And the maturity of it is understanding that sometimes the duality of how you live can just be what you project to other people in a moment. Right. Literally, moments can affect eternities. That, they say, first impressions last forever. Just be able to look inside of yourself as a human being, be able to self-assess. That is a very important key or tool that we pride ourselves on. You're going to hear us talk about it a million times because a lot of things are going to start with you being able to see you. If you can't ever see you to know, I probably don't even need to go to the function tonight. I'll probably earn this, boy. I'll probably earn this thing. Boy, stop playing with me. Come over here with that.
So so just know when it's best to just sit at home, watch a movie, call in on them folks. They gonna be okay. Why do you have to listen? Don't go into work and lose your job that you need because you needed a mental health day. Let's not do that. So take that however you may. But just learn how to be able to better self-assess to say, today ain't my day. I'm gonna chill. Cause now we're not just talking about how we view people and how we share stories on Instagram. Cause some of that stuff is just lighthearted. And I got a little dark. I know we both say this, but we got a little dark, you know what I'm saying? Like sense of humor sometimes. Right. So it might be something that we find funny that ain't nobody laughing about in the room.
And be willing, and if you do happen to crack a joke on somebody, I mean, super lighthearted, and they are offended by it, be willing to apologize. Like, I've cracked a terrible joke at a wrong time, and I've apologized. I mean, it's fine, and I meant the apology. Yeah. I didn't call them sensitive, whatever. It was a joke. Either sometimes, man, when you're a comedian like me. Sometimes you going for the gusto.
Hey, folk, when you knocking him off like that.
Yeah, when you knocking him off like that. Hey, either it's gonna hit hard and you gonna rock the room. Yeah. Or you gonna suck the life out of it. But it's just a risk. It's just a risk we take as comedians. Yeah. But no, man. I just to the double standards, man. And I know we were talking about we kind of shifted gears as far as people handling themselves and not ending up in a situation, man. But do we have probably about 4 minutes to talk about double standards in relationships?
Yes, please.
Okay.
That's always welcome. Them women's, they be always looking to talk about them old relationships, folks. So go ahead, go for what you know.
How do you feel about that? How is this viewed? How is a man? Say a man makes 6 figures, right? And his wife does 30,000, maybe a cashier at Walgreens. How's that look? In this eyes, I don't read too far into it. Just
no.
It ain't a big deal.
I'll be honest. I think for us, I'll say for us, we are highly more objective than what people think.
Right.
But I think sometimes the facts are just the facts. The reality is, for most men, we don't give a crap about that.
Okay. All right.
Whether you make 100 or 30, that's totally on you. But the problem comes in when that same woman elevates.
Hold on, don't go there yet. Not yet. Let's deal with this.
All right.
Okay. Let's deal with the 6-figure, the greed woman. And let's deal with buddy at the car wash making 25,000, 30,000.
Oh, he the scum of the earth.
Ooh.
Absolutely.
So is that a double standard?
Yes, that's absolutely without a shadow of a doubt. And it's why most women need to be careful about what they really want out of life. Okay. Don't go get a degree and make all that money and say it's for somebody that you're trying to share life with.
Right.
Because most men, now I'll take this back. I'm going to say that's actually different. Most men can't handle that. Let's just be honest.
Shoot.
No. It's hateful.
Make more than me.
Eddie come here and make she 100,000 now.
I'm bragging.
Absolutely.
Big bragging.
Get it. Hey. I'm jigging. But just be careful too, because you may not be mature enough to still submit to that man. And that's where the double standard comes in. When, and I heard Donnie say it actually, and it rubbed me the wrong way. I was listening to that podcast and she said they play this game where they all throw their cards in, right? And she said, I wouldn't do that with y'all. I would do it at low level places like Waffle House or something like that, or Barney's, whatever that is. And then she said, I got a man that can pay for such and such and such.
Oh, I didn't catch that piece.
Yeah, wow. She said, I got a man that can take care of that bill. And it's like, yeah, but so? Like,
right.
What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Right.
You can't want to sit in the rooms but not want to participate in the things that go on in the rooms.
Okay.
Dude, like, because, man, we can, oh, man, you know, we could live here when we talk about gender roles.
And I got one more, too, after you done.
But I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, so you can make the money that I make but not pay the bill that I pay? How does that work? And why does that work? In your mind, why is that okay? I think internally even, there are arenas that we have to understand were set up from the beginning by God, and there is no double standard to it. It's just the way it is. And you either choose to accept it, or we find a healthy area to live within as men and women, or you do what you do and you just fall by the wayside. What's your
the next one is, how about let's mix it up. How about the male who, or the husband, we'll say the husband because we believe in marriage. We'll say the husband who works 65, 70 hours a week, right? So that his wife can stay home. Now, his wife does what she's supposed to at home as well. That their deal is that you'll maintain the house, and the kid or whatever who's in daycare still and all the stuff like that, they'll maintain that. How about her expression, she's tired?
I think that as men, we have to be careful with that one, because we can't overvalue what we do and what we bring to the table, and we can't devalue what they do. True enough.
Vice versa.
No, I'm saying true enough. I could come home, put the kids to bed, clean the house, but you're talking about something that I did once. That don't mean I could do it every day.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that they shouldn't have the floor to be able to do it. But this is where we're going to come into a disconnect. Are we doing this every day?
Right.
Because as a cultivator, I want to give you the space to be able to complain. Right. Because if we're married and we share space in life together, you deserve the right to do that.
Let me add to it real quick, though.
Go ahead.
Let's change dynamic. But the husband comes home from work. The husband comes home from work and he relaxes. Well, her duties may still be ongoing after his work hours, though.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So the appearance is he just came home and does nothing, erasing the 8, 10, 12 hours that he just put out outside. It just took place outside of the house.
This is where it is important that conversations, the hard conversations, take place long before you say I do. Because some of these things are just, some of these things you have wiggle room for, and we can have a discussion. Because it may just be like what we were talking about. Hey, let me come home. Let me get 15, 20 minutes to myself. Let me collect my thoughts. Let me change my clothes. Let me eat some food. Let me do whatever. Let me use the bathroom. And then if you need me to help out with something, we can do that. But there has to be a realism and a maturity on both parties to understand that if we're going to play these roles, that we have to still play these roles no matter how we feel, no matter what's going on, because I may not want to get up and go to work every day. But for these bills to get paid, for us to go take those trips, for you to get those bags, for this food to come in this house, I have to do it.
Okay.
So for you to be able to maintain this thing, to make sure that the kids are squared away, to make sure you're still keeping your body tight, to make sure that this house still is conducted in an orderly way and looks a certain way, you may just have to get up and do the thing that you don't feel like doing every day.
Just like I do.
A part of the purpose that is put inside of us is understanding that it is very important for us to stick to what we are called to. It may be for a season, at least until the kids get to a certain age, that's just what you have to do.
Right.
Then maybe I can call a maid in once a week or every 2 weeks. Or then maybe I can cater through Chef Jeff or Monica or something like that. There are certain things that we can do, but I also believe that for men to lighten the load based off of a circumstance like that specifically, there has to be a realistic talk because, and this is personally me, Anthony, nobody has to agree with me, but if I'm lightening this load on top of everything else that I'm doing, what is that? Like, it doesn't sound fair, but what is the trade-off?
Switch it.
Okay.
Let's switch it. Let's put that the situation is where the wife is in a situation where she's moving to give her call a purpose and she getting to it. And the situation is that y'all want to raise y'all kids yourself, and so the husband's not at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
But y'all saying works. If she has to physically go out into the world and she's working 10, 11, 12 hours a day to do that, is there more of an expectation of the husband to be at home maintaining the house and having certain things taken care of before her arrival and after she's sitting at home or whatever than it would be if it was her? It seems to me the appearance is that, and I could be absolutely wrong. Right. I don't have any data at all. Right. The appearance to me is that there should be more grace shown when there's the wife at home, taking care of this, that, and that there should be just an understanding of her being, and that it absolutely is not easy to take care of a house. I never downplay it. I would never want to do it. I would much rather go work 16 hours a day. I kid you not. I'm wired that way, bro. But I'm saying it just seems though that there's I'm tired. I got to do the kids and blah, 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 and food and blah, 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 this, that, and other. But I'm like, kids at school 8 hours. Mm-hmm. So I think there's these standards, but at the end of the day, we all recognize that we understand biblically we're stronger in some regards to handle more of a load. And so I just threw that out there just for conversational purposes. I thoroughly understand that. Man, we just build different.
And since we're talking to the believer, because there was one guy that went in the comments. I know he wasn't no believer, but he went crazy. Oh, this is cool. It was during the relationship bag series. Right. He was like, "Yeah, this sound good. This some old cookie cutter." And it's like, no, this is real life. Right. The beautiful thing about dealing with believers, and there may be some nuance, right? There may be some things that we understand and move differently on, meaning that. In our society, women like to work just because they like to have their own sense of independence.
And they get into it. And they get into it.
That's dope, right? But if all else fails, the Bible wins, right? We can have a discussion. We can argue. We can do all that stuff. But when we come to an understanding, we're going to consult the Father and we're going to consult what he left behind for us. Okay. So as men and women that are believers, it is understood that when we talk about childbearing and all of these types of things, there's a certain responsibility that a woman has to a child, especially if you're breastfeeding and things of that nature, that I just can't do. I think it's unfair to a child even to have to, and mind you, we're talking about in an instance where a woman doesn't have to. Like, we're not talking about single mothers. We're talking about in the confines of relationship. Or you're married, or you even live with somebody, because not everybody is married. But we prefer that. That you go out and you are separated from your baby for a certain amount of time when you have a primary breadwinner. That can be some very shaky waters. Like, your independence, it's not as pressing as that situation that you're making it to be. And this is just for men who don't mind going to get the bag and bring it back. Yeah. Right? We can't speak for every man, but I just know for my wife, she doesn't work an actual job. She bakes and she's great at it. She's fire. Dip by Danny, Platinum Pastries. Go check her out on social media. And she does some stuff with her dad on the side. But that's totally up to her. But there's an understanding, even though she may fall short in some areas, that I need you to make sure that the household is taken care of. I need you to make sure that the girls are squared away. This is just me. I don't feel like men in that regard that pay for all the bills should have to then come home and then do this and do that and do this. I just think it's an unfair dynamic. And I think as men and as women sometimes in culture, this may not be a comfortable conversation for everybody.
Right.
But for women in culture, we have to understand that everybody has a role to play.
Right.
And you have to be okay with the role that is given to you at times in certain seasons.
Yep.
So when we start wanting to do half of it, but then we want to have our own money, and then that's where we start getting into the double standard. So just be careful. Just have these conversations, these tough conversations in excess. I'm talking about till there's no meat left on the bone with a potential person that you want to court or date or marry, so that when we get to the crescendo of marriage, that some people see it as, that it's not as much of a disconnect when it comes to what's required, because we're still going to have disconnects. We're humans. We're still going to see things differently, but at least let's have the conversations that don't nobody want to have, so that we can live a way that most people don't live. So
absolutely, man. Love it, bro.
Man, listen. You know, I don't know how the fallout gonna be on this one, folks. But y'all see how Randy be want to stir the old pot.
And will.
And did. So, you know, let us know what y'all think.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Serious, open for a dialogue.
Yes,
I don't have a harsh stance, whatever. I got my beliefs. I know how I move as a man. So that's just that on that.
Absolutely. Jack. And it's okay. I think we need to stop getting away from the taboo of having tough conversations.
Yeah.
Like, we really need to, like, even amongst friends, even amongst, like, you know, whatever, like, let's just say, hey, let's sit down and let's hammer these things out. Me and my wife started really experiencing the other side of things when we just sat down and had these conversations.
Love it.
And it doesn't mean we're going to always agree, but the maturity of us wanting to really want to be together and make things work is agreeing to disagree and working. Love has absolutely everything to do with caring for somebody else other and better than you care for yourself.
Wow.
As a husband, the word says you love what it says. Husbands, love your wives as you love yourself. You're not going to treat yourself like trash. So don't do that to your spouse. Let's let the end of all of this be that we look to care for somebody a little bit better than what we care for ourselves, and hopefully there's less of a disconnect.
Love it. So,
yeah, man. With that being said, let's get to that old question of the day. Stupid be shouted. You know what I'm talking about? So listen. Simply put, man, are you looking at life through two lenses? Because there's reality and then there's what you want. There's reality and there's what you need to do. There's what you tell the people in public, and then there's what you do behind closed doors. There's a bunch of things that we get into and that we put ourselves in that end up blowing up in our faces because we're just not real enough to say, hey, I'm this, you know, let's stop trying to be the spokesman for everything.
Yeah.
There's certain conversations that certain people just shouldn't be in. Right. You're not mature enough.
Yep.
And when the pressure gets on you, you're going to do something that makes the church look bad, that makes your wife look bad, that makes your husband look bad. And it ain't, you're going to be throwing that old scum, that old sully on your name, folk. So just be careful, you know? So are you living in duality, and what is the best plan of action to make sure that doesn't continue? Right. Because at the end of the day, we want to be a light. We want to be salt of the earth, and we want to be the best examples that we can be to our friends, family, and loved ones. All right. So listen, we thank you. We love you for tuning in to another episode of the Wayne's World Podcast. Man, you know how we end every podcast, dog?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Life is hard enough. So please don't just live elevated. Until next time, we love you. May the Lord keep you. We'll see you at the conference, dog.
That way.
Yeah.